Yesterday was Holocaust Remembrance Day, which marks 81 years since the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. And now, over 80 years later, researchers are still searching for answers and finding some of them, but the search continues. And one of those researchers is Dr. Harry Joel, a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. He takes research students all across Europe to locate previously undiscovered mass graves from the Holocaust, and he's joining us now to talk more about his research and his work and his trips. Professor, thanks for joining us. I watched, part of the documentary called Hidden Holocaust on National Geographic, and it shows you're in, I think, Latvia and Lithuania using maps of, historic maps and current landmarks and cross-referencing those and ground-penetrating radar and LIDAR to find this. How did you begin, let's start there with, how did you begin these efforts to go locate previously undiscovered mass graves from the Holocaust?
We've done a lot of earlier work in Israel and located some of the earlier graves at archaeological sites there, Qumran and other locations. We moved on to Rhodes and realized very quickly the reason there was only a couple Jews left in Rhodes, Greece, was they were all taken to Auschwitz and killed in those locations. Reporting on our work there, we had the Israeli Antiquities Authority, John Seligman, talk about his family being killed in Vilnius, Lithuania, and we were invited there. And so we've used the tools that we have here at the university, and we started a campaign in 2015. And every year we get more requests than we can fulfill.
Wow. Well, tell us about the trips and maybe the ones specifically that we see in this documentary on National Geographic. Describe the work, what you do, and what you're finding.
So we're mostly an undergraduate institute here in Eau Claire. And so these are undergraduate students doing the research and working on that. So there's a lot of training that goes on. In the film where we're looking at Liepaja is one of these major sites because just north of there is a Skada, is where you see all the, you could say, photos that were taken of mass killings, and you can actually see them. Liepaja itself is the only film we have of mass killings during the Holocaust. And it's just serendipitous that we do have that film. The gravesite has never been found, and when we started work there, it took a while to put all the pieces together, but we did find the mass gravesite of that film, and there's probably another 7 or 8 adjacent to that area that we located.
Yeah,
and so,
yeah. The background on this too, if people are not familiar with this history, is Nazi Germany then invaded into Russia and portions, part of the SS, the Einsatzgruppe. They were the ones tasked with basically rounding up and liquidating, for lack of a mass murder of what they called the undesirables, which were in many cases Jewish people in these areas. So they would round them up and move through. And I saw that film. That's the one where you see a ditch dug and people going into that. And you located this and other ditches in these areas that had been previously unfound.
Correct. We have to remember after 1945, the Soviets controlled the area, and so the Russians until 1991, nothing was done for the most part in these regions because they were being controlled. After independence in 91, there's most of the time is spent of recovery. I mean, you're living under this authoritarian regime, and you're just trying to start living again with the freedoms that you have. And so when we started looking at these areas, the requests came in. Disappointment in some of these areas because communities had been developed over top these locations. These sites were not shared. And so when a community wants to move in, it's not unusual for some communities to find when they dig, they're finding bones and things like that, but not knowing the history.
How many discoveries then have you made in terms of mass grave sites that were previously unknown about, and how does that inform maybe a better picture of the total numbers of people that were killed in these mass killings and put in these mass graves?
I mean, I would say at least 20 sites that we've located. We know that there are hundreds of others out there, just by the German Wehrmacht, you could say, recording all these sites, and survivors going back to some of these sites. We work with within Latvia, the Jews in Latvia Museum, and they're still recording sites and some of the evidence. And so when we get a request to come into some of these major sites, the results are can we just put up a memorial? And can we just recognize these people?
Why is it important to continue to do this work? I mean, is that it? I mean, so that we know where all these, these mass graves are, so that there is a point where people can go, their descendants can go? I mean, why do you do this?
Yeah, I mean, we have survivor, or ones that were individually, the families where grandparents were killed, and they've flown over from the United States or Israel just to say thank you to the students. It's quite emotional when survivors are on site with us in some of these areas, because they remember they were 7 years old, 8 years old, and when they start talking, there's not a dry eye at the dinner table as we talk about this. So much of this is teaching locals about their own history. One filmmaker in Latvia came up to me and said, why are you, as Americans, coming here to investigate what the Nazis did in our country? He said, the Latvians don't even know. And he's a major film director, and he came out with us to try to understand why. And a lot of it is the data is free. We give the data right back to the communities and say, here's what we know and what we have found out. And then it's the responsibility of the local community to make some decisions.
What further trips do you have planned at this point? Anything kind of on the calendar with grad students, and more research, more, it's pretty impressive when you watch what you do. I mean, what's coming up?
So we have funding for the next couple years. We have an internal funding program, the International Fellows Program here, that allows me and another staff member, as well as 5 students, go over every summer. We do have students and community members who pay their own way because they want to join us. I join with a colleague out of Duquesne University, and he also brings some students. So we're 9 to 15 people out there in the field working. I do plan to continue to raise funding. Proposals are out. The L.E. Phillips Family Foundation is a huge sponsor of this research as well as private community members have also sponsored students in the past.
Well, it's fascinating to see. It's very moving to see what you're doing. It's also fascinating from just a scientific standpoint to see how you're using historical records that even the Nazi Germany kept, combining that with historical maps. They were meticulous on some of their record keeping, combining that with maps, and then you combine that with landmarks that you're seeing there, and then you do the ground penetrating radar and the LIDAR, and you put all that together and you sort of locate, this is where we think this is. It's fascinating work to watch and pretty moving as well. Wow, Professor, thank you so much. And I would encourage anybody, if they want to learn more, I'm sure there's plenty of other videos out there. I know this most recent one called The Hidden Holocaust on National Geographic. Anything else that you would recommend people try to find?
Yeah, we have a Nova show out from multiple years ago when we first started, and that dealing with a tunnel in Vilnius, Lithuania. And our research there is just trying to steer development away from this site where 100,000 people were killed. And there's other ones. If you visit my website, joelgpr.org, there is all kinds of links to this. And the students produce public-facing story maps. So every day our results and how the students are doing are published.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Harry. Appreciate it. Joining us, professor at UW-Eau Claire. Thanks so much for your time today. It's fascinating to hear your work.
Great. Thanks for your interest.
You bet.
Have a good day.
All right.